It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
And welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast as we cover the latest property news every morning on iHeartRadio, Spotify and Apple, and wherever you get your podcast from. Hope your weekend was a good one. I mentioned a couple of days ago that I've decided to eat less red meat and try more of a plant-based way of living. And Karen there in Melbourne, thank you for your vegan pancakes recipe. Have to say, they look pretty good with the photos that you have supplied. And if you have got a great recipe, don't hesitate to send it through, as I'm very new to this whole vegan way of eating, cutting back. I don't think I can just go cold turkey on my red meat. It's going to be sort of like a slow pullback, but we'll see how we go. If you do have a recipe, flick it through. The email is myrealestatepodcast@gmail.com. Well, it's a Monday morning, January the 15th today for 2024, and coming up in just a moment, we are back to the time tunnel this morning with our summer series of real estate podcasts. And coming up this morning, we are going back to August of last year when we spoke to Jackson Evenden there in Sherwood in Brisbane. He tells us about his suburb and how it was performing last year. Also, we catch up with Nick Zounis in the inner northern suburbs of Perth. Jett Jones in Logan. She is talking about houses that she is selling from people quitting their properties because of last year's rate rises. Jett is also selling investor properties as a result of the rate hikes. And we also, in this podcast, we catch up with Michael Townsend from St Kilda in Melbourne about the block series that took place last year in his suburb of Hampton East. So that is all coming up as part of our summer series next.
We are more than just a real estate podcast. We cover a multitude of subjects, including property data, current buyer-seller sentiment, and the mood of the market. Follow each week all of the main talking points and know your property. We look forward to 2024 with more real estate stories and more property news. You're listening to the summer series on the Real Estate Podcast.
Well, I absolutely love selling in Sherwood here in the west of Brisbane. I have done for the better part of eight or 9 years now. Very still proximity to the city, the train line coming straight through it. You'll be straight into the Brisbane CBD within 10 minutes. The schools, the shops, the cafes, the infrastructure and the community of the Sherwood area. It's a great place to be, and when people buy and live here, they really don't want to leave.
And unfortunately, there's kind of two sides of the coin, though, with Sherwood, because it did experience some major flooding. Tell us a little bit about what's happened in that space, because you've got the properties that have been flooded, and then you've got properties that haven't been flooded. How much of I guess, just in terms of the perception for potential buyers when they're looking at that flooding situation that occurred?
Absolutely. It's a big talking point for a lot of our buyers. Very common for a buyer to call us. Very common questions. What are the owners looking for? And of course, did this property flood? It's a very common question which other areas and other markets may not receive as inquiry from buyers. But of course, the information that buyers do have access to in regards to the Floodwise property reports that are available online, it's very easy to jump on it and do your research. But of course, the Sherwood and the entire western corridor of Brisbane is sort of broken up into a few different areas: the high side, the corridor location in the middle, and of course the lower lying area on the other side of the suburbs. So it is definitely a talking point, and our flooded homes are still selling, which is great. But of course, if anything, it has put more of a premium on the flood-free locations in still such a great area.
From the emotion of property, the economic inflation, managing your expectations, lack of stock, price growth, construction appetite, days on market. Stay informed with us and know your property.
We are getting a lot of East Coast investors that are buying into the inner north, great rental area. We are literally at full capacity at the moment. We don't have literally any vacancies through our areas. We do get a lot of investors from the East Coast. I would say in the last month, we've sold probably 2 to East Coast investors, one from an Australian expat in London. So they are looking here for good returns and solid growth. I think we lag a bit behind the East Coast on prices, so it represents great value.
And we've been talking about the fact that, the whole winter and listing properties, not a bad idea because limited stock, and if you've got a successful campaign that goes at this time of the year, it can actually be a really good time for vendors to sell their properties. Any thoughts with regards to where the thinking and the sentiment in your local area is for that with vendors?
Well, again, just as you said, there's less stock about, so less to choose from. A good winter campaign can reap some good rewards for you. There's still multiple buyers searching and scouring for property. The audience is still there, and if you're not having much competition as far as stock level goes, you will get good prices.
And how are you expecting the market over the next 3 months to play out for you there in your area?
I think pretty much the same. I think stock levels will remain tight. We are getting a lot of people that have rented long term coming into the market to buy properties to get out of the rental sort of grind, so to speak. But I think much of the same. I think our stock levels will remain tight and buyers will still be there.
We don't just report on real estate news, we take you to the source of the information. We produce more property podcasts every week than anyone else. We are your trusted guide for all things real estate.
Tell us a little bit more about this report, Erin, because I understand Auckland comes out in number 2 position.
It does. So our 2023 Waterfront Homes report looks at 8 global cities. What we've seen is that, yes, Sydney has come in on top with an 118% premium for a property that is directly on the water and direct waterfront views. Beachfront homes certainly saw globally the biggest uplift. That is still in response to people looking for a sea change post-COVID.
Now, you mentioned Sydney. Sydney comes out in the number 1 position, Auckland number 2, and you have done 8 global markets. So what are the others?
Sure. So we looked at Monaco, Cap d'Antibes, Paris, Geneva, Vienna and Hong Kong.
And what about global warming and the effects and the predictions about losing foreshore and what that means for future beachfront properties? Does that actually come up in your report? Is there any sort of indication whereby people are just backing off a little bit from some of those beachfront properties?
Certainly can't see evidence of that happening in the numbers that we have. And when we look at, I think you mentioned earlier, when we look at the uplift from last year to this year, it was 118% this year, but it was 121% last year. So, but a very small decline. And I'm not sure that we could put that down to any particular reason. So we're certainly not seeing demand decrease on the back of environmental issues. We're probably on the back of lifestyle issues seeing the demand increase in that people want that better quality of life, living by water, good for the soul, good for the mind, something, beautiful to look at, I think seems to be what's important to purchasers at the moment.
You're listening to the Summer Series on the Real Estate Podcast.
We actually had one where the bank started knocking on the door. He's got about 5 properties in Queensland. This gentleman called me up crying. He's like, Jett, I don't know what to do. I'm like, look, let me help you. Let's trial off market. We sold it before we got the photos finished, actually. We had about 9 written offers on his property, but we didn't disclose any of his circumstances or anything like that. Just he needed to sell, and it's actually coming up to settlement very shortly. But he's like, I'm probably going to have to get rid of my other ones as well.
Wow. Okay. And what about your friends? Because being a younger person, you must have friends in your circle. They are being hit just as hard.
Yeah, because a lot of my friends who have purchased in the last 12 months or the last 24 months, unfortunately, they didn't get locked into that low interest rate. They got put in on a variable, and all of us on a variable rate at the moment are going, oh my goodness, this is not right, because it just keeps going up. Like, it's been open discussion over our dinner tables a few times that it's just rude how much it's gone up, honestly.
In terms of that discussion around the dining room table, though, we were talking about it the other day in terms of how low can you go before you decide to let's just fix this for the longest period. Of course, hindsight looking back tells us everybody should have been doing that, but no doubt all of your friends are wanting to fix it once it comes down to an acceptable level.
Not necessarily, because in some cases, obviously I wanted to be able to fix mine in my position. I can't. In other cases as well, if you're not in that position where you can actually fix your loan at that rate because of whatever circumstance, that's going to have that impact. So a lot of those people are kind of, biting their nails at the time, wanting to know what's going to happen next, or do we have to make a game plan as to what we're going to do moving forward as well, because not everyone's in a position where they can fix their loan.
What do you say to people that say the younger generation have never been through a rate hike cycle like what we've got now? You have older people saying, oh yes, but back in our day we were paying 18 to 20%.
Well, look, with that also being said, you're paying 18 to 20%, but there's also been a significant increase in house prices at that point in time, so it kind of counteracts it, doesn't it? Someone obviously of the now generation, it's a lot of people obviously want to go out. They want to buy the beautiful properties and stuff like that. They see limits as to this is how high I can stretch. Can I stretch it a bit more? You've got to know where you're able to go to and where you can be comfortably, because the most uncomfortable feeling is the first 3 months when you move into a home after you've bought it, or even after you've moved into a home, because it's like, okay, do we have to rebudget anything and stuff like that too?
Don't navigate the real estate market alone. Let us help guide you in the world of real estate every day. Make better informed decisions with the latest news and insights.
And we are talking about the block, the new location, Hampton East. And Michael's a little bit of a veteran. You've been on the show, 4 times in total?
Yeah, that's right, Craig. 4 times. Worked really hard. I don't say lucky enough. So 2 in St Kilda, 1 in Brighton and 1 in Hampton. We skipped over the one last year in Gisborne just for proximity purposes. Pretty happy in the end that we did that. It looked a little bit messy.
And so what do you think the reserve price might be? That's the curly one.
If I was a betting man, I think that with the land sizes that are there and just the high quality of these properties are finished and how much work goes into them, the contestants on this show, they paint and then they project manage. So this is not the same as what it potentially used to be, but this is all certified high spec trades that build these houses to an absolutely amazing standard. So with that all said, on these land sizes, I'd imagine the reserves will be somewhere in the high 2 millions, and potentially, my understanding is one of the block houses is a little bit bigger, so north of 700 square metres, while the others are around about 600. For the bigger one, I'd imagine a reserve price with a 3 at the front.
Well, that'll be interesting to see just how close you are with that, because November will be here before we know it. Now, one of the problems, of course, was the contestants last time just not really walking away with much money. They put all their heart and soul into it. I hope that this time round there's a little bit more fat in it.
Yes, that's exactly right. And the show and Channel 9 and the producers and everybody involved, the trades, the agents, everybody, and even contestants versus other contestants, everybody wants the contestants to go away with reward for effort. And there is so much effort that goes into it. It's people away from their families, people interstate with young kids that come and build these houses for 3-4 months, and the whole process that goes with it. So yes, everybody is hoping that a couple of $100,000 at least in everybody's pocket would be a great outcome.
I actually don't know how the nuts and bolts of it work in terms of the labour, so I presume that they're getting paid, right, from Channel 9, the contestants?
They get paid a very small amount, almost like a commissary. So it'd be a couple of $100 a day sort of thing. It's and especially for people. I remember at the Gatwick for our first season in Fitzroy Street, Hayden and Sarah. Hayden had his own building business, so he had to put that on hold to go on to come on the show, and that work wasn't getting done unless you've got some long service leave stowed away, or you're in a position where you can be on pretty small wages for 3 or 4 months before you go back to your job. It can be a financial hit.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.